in every election since 1896.
The top 12 Democratic presidential candidates are at their positions behind the podiums. This is a record number of candidates for a presidential primary debate. So, to accommodate the large group, there are no opening statements tonight.
Before we begin, a reminder of the ground rules. You'll each receive 75 seconds to answer questions, 45 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and 15 seconds for clarifications. Please refrain from interrupting your fellow candidates, as that will count against your time.
And we remind our audience here in the Reich Center to Otterbein to be respectful so the candidates can hear the questions and each other. All right, let's begin. Since the last debate, House Democrats have officially launched an impeachment inquiry against President Trump, which all the candidates on this stage support. Senator Warren, I want to start with you. You have said that there's already enough evidence for President Trump to be impeached and removed from office. But the question is, with the election only 1 year away, why shouldn't it be the voters who determine the president's fate?
Because sometimes there are issues that are bigger than politics, and I think that's the case with this impeachment inquiry. When I made the decision to run for president, I certainly didn't think it was going to be about impeachment. But when the Mueller report came out, I read it, all 442 pages. And when I got to the end, I realized that Mueller had shown to a fare thee well that this president had obstructed justice and done it repeatedly. And so at that moment, I called for opening an impeachment inquiry. Now, that didn't happen, and look what happened as a result. Donald Trump broke the law again in the summer, broke it again this fall. You know, we took a constitutional oath, and that is that no one is above the law, and that includes the President of the United States. Impeachment is the way that we establish that this man will not be permitted to break the law over and over without consequences. This is about Donald Trump, but understand, it's about the next president and the next president and the next president and the future of this country. The impeachment must go forward.
Thank you, Senator Warren. You're all going to get in on this, by the way. Senator Sanders, do Democrats have any choice but to impeach President Trump? Please respond.
No, they don't. In my judgment, Trump is the most corrupt president in history of this country. It's not just that he obstructed justice with the Mueller report. I think that the House will find him worthy of impeachment because of the emoluments clause. This is a president who is enriching himself while using the Oval Office to do that, and that is outrageous. And I think in terms of the recent Ukrainian incident, the idea that we have a president of the United States who is prepared to hold back national security money to one of our allies in order to get dirt on a presidential candidate is beyond comprehension. So I look forward, by the way, not only to a speedy and expeditious impeachment process, but Mitch McConnell has got to do the right thing and allow a free and fair trial in the Senate.
Vice President Biden, during the Clinton impeachment proceedings, you said, and I quote, "The American people don't think that they've made a mistake by electing Bill Clinton, and we in Congress had better be very careful before we upset their decision." With the country now split, have Democrats been careful enough in pursuing the impeachment of President Trump?
Yes, they have. I said from the beginning that if, in fact, Trump continued to stonewall, but the Congress is entitled to know about his background, what he did, all the accusations in the Mueller report, if they did that, they would have no choice but to begin an impeachment proceeding, which gives them more power to seek more information. This president, and I agree with Bernie, Senator Sanders, is the most corrupt president in modern history, and I think all of our history. And the fact is that this president of the United States has gone so far as to say, since this latest event, that in fact he will not cooperate in any way at all, will not send any witnesses, will not provide any information, will not do anything to cooperate with the impeachment. They have no choice but to move.
Senator Harris, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said that members of Congress have to be, in her words, fair to the president and give him a chance to exonerate himself. You've already said that based on everything you've seen, you would vote to remove him from office. Is that being fair to the president?
Well, it's just being observant because he has committed crimes in plain sight. I mean, it's shocking, but he told us who he was. Maya Angelou told us years ago Listen to somebody when they tell you who they are the first time. During that election, Donald Trump told us he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And he has consistently, since he won, been selling out the American people. He's been selling out working people. He's been selling out our values. He's been selling out national security. And on this issue with Ukraine, he has been selling out our democracy. Our framers imagined this moment, a moment where we would have a corrupt president. And our framers then rightly designed our system of democracy to say there will be checks and balances. This is one of those moments. And so Congress must act. But the reality of it is that I don't really think this impeachment process is going to take very long, because as a former prosecutor, I know a confession when I see it. And he did it in plain sight. He has given us the evidence, and he tried to cover it up, putting it in that special server. And there's been a clear consciousness of guilt. This will not take very long. Donald Trump needs to be held accountable. He is indeed the most corrupt and unpatriotic president we have ever had.
Senator Booker, you have said that President Trump's, quote, moral vandalism disqualifies him from being president. Can you be fair in an impeachment trial? Please respond.
So, first of all, we must be fair. We are talking about ongoing proceedings to remove a sitting president for office. This has got to be about patriotism and not partisanship. Look, I share the same sense of urgency of everybody on this stage. I understand the outrage that we all feel, but we have to conduct this process in a way that is honorable, that brings our country together, doesn't rip us apart. Anybody who has criticisms about a process that is making all the facts bare before the American public, that works to build consensus, that's what this nation needs in what is a moral moment and not a political one. So I swore an oath to do my job as a senator, do my duty. This president has violated his, I will do mine.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Senator Klobuchar, you have, what do you say to those who fear that impeachment is a distraction from issues that impact people's day-to-day lives, healthcare, the economy, and could backfire on Democrats?
We can do two things at once. That's our job. We have a constitutional duty to pursue this impeachment, but we also can stand up for America, because this president has not been putting America in front of his own personal interests. He has not been standing up for the workers of Ohio. He's not been standing up for the farmers in Iowa. And I take this even a step further. You know, when he made that call to the head of Ukraine, he's digging up dirt on an opponent. That's illegal conduct. That's what he was doing. He didn't talk to him about the Russian invasion. He talked to him about that. So I'm still waiting to find out from him how making that call to the head of Ukraine and trying to get him involved in interfering in our election makes America great again. I'd like to hear from him about how leaving the Kurds for slaughter, our allies for slaughter, where Russia then steps in to protect them, how that makes America great again. And I would like to hear from him about how coddling up to Vladimir Putin makes America great again. It doesn't make America great again. It makes Russia great again. And that is what this president has done. So whether it is workers' issues, whether it is farmers' issue, he has put his own private interests, and I will not do that.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Is impeachment a distraction?
Not at all. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, and all of us are out there every single day talking about what we're going to do to make sure that more people cross the graduation stage, that more families have great health care, that more folks are put to work in places like Ohio, where Donald Trump has broken his promises, because Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania actually, in the latest jobs data, have lost jobs, not gained them. Not only that, what we have to recognize is that not only did the Mueller report point out 10 different instances where the president obstructed justice or tried to, and he made that call to President Zelensky of the Ukraine, but he is ongoingly, in an ongoing way, violating his oath of office and abusing his power. We have to impeach this president, and the majority of Americans not only support impeachment, they support removal. He should be removed.
Mayor Buttigieg, you have said that impeachment should be bipartisan. There's been obviously very little Republican support to date, yet Democrats are proceeding. Is that a mistake?
Well, it's a mistake on the part of Republicans who enable a president whose actions are as offensive to their own supposed values as they are to the values that we all share. Look, the president has left the Congress with no choice. And this is not just about holding the president accountable. for not just the things emerging in these investigations, but actions that he has confessed to on television. It's also about the presidency itself, because a president 10 years or 100 years from now will look back at this moment and draw the conclusion either that no one is above the law or that a president can get away with anything. But everyone on this stage, by definition, is competing to be a president for after the Trump presidency. Remember, one way or the other, this presidency is going to come to an end. I want you to picture what it's going to be like, what it's actually going to feel like in this country the first day the sun comes up after Donald Trump has been president. It starts out feeling like a happy thought. This particular brand of chaos and corruption will be over, but really think about where we'll be. Vulnerable, even more torn apart by politics than we are right now. And these big issues, from the economy to climate change, have not taken a vacation during the impeachment process. I'm running to be the president who can turn the page and unify a dangerously polarized country while tackling those issues that are going to be just as urgent then as they are now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congresswoman Gabbard, you're the only sitting House member on this stage. How do you respond?
If impeachment is driven by these hyper-partisan interests, it will only further divide an already terribly divided country. Unfortunately, this is what we've already seen play out as calls for impeachment really began shortly after Trump won his election. And as unhappy as that may make us as Democrats, he won that election in 2016. The serious issues that have been raised around this phone call that he had with the president of Ukraine and many other things that transpired around that are what caused me to support the inquiry in the House. And I think that it should continue to play its course out, to gather all the information, provide that to the American people, recognizing that that is the only way forward. If the House votes to impeach, the Senate does not vote to remove Donald Trump, he walks out and he feels exonerated, further deepening the divides in this country that we cannot afford.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mr. Sauer, you've been calling for impeachment for 2 years. Does there need to be bipartisan support?
Well, Anderson, this is my first time on this stage, so I just want to start by reminding everybody that every candidate here is more decent, more coherent, and more patriotic than the criminal in the White House. But I also want to point out that Anderson's right. 2 years ago, I started the Need to Impeach movement because I knew there was something desperately wrong at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that we did have the most corrupt president in the country, and that only the voice and the will of the American people would drag Washington to see it as a matter of right and wrong, not of political expediency. So in fact, impeaching and removing this president is something that the American people are demanding. They're the voice that counts, and that's who I went to, the American people.
Mr. Yang, do you think there's already enough evidence out there to impeach the president? Please respond.
I support impeachment, but we shouldn't have any illusions that impeaching Donald Trump will, one, be successful, or two, erase the problems that got him elected in 2016. We're standing in the great state of Ohio, the ultimate purple state, the ultimate bellwether state. Why did Donald Trump win your state by 8 points? Because we got rid of 300,000 manufacturing jobs in your towns, and we're not stopping there. How many of you have noticed stores closing where you work and live here in Ohio? Raise your hands. It's not just you. Amazon alone is closing 30% of America's stores and malls, soaking up $20 billion in business while paying zero in taxes. These are the problems that got Donald Trump elected, the fourth industrial revolution. And that is going to accelerate and grow more serious regardless of who is in the Oval Office. The fact is, Donald Trump, when we're talking about him, we are losing. We need to present a new vision, and that even includes talking about impeaching Donald Trump.
Mr. Congressman O'Rourke, on impeachment, please respond.
You know, I think about everyone who's ever served this country in uniform. We have two examples here on the stage tonight, Mayor Buttigieg and Congresswoman Gabbard. Those who have willingly sacrificed their lives to defend this country and our Constitution. We are the inheritors of their service and their sacrifice. And we have a responsibility to be fearless in the face of this president's criminality and his lawlessness. The fact that as a candidate for the highest office in the land, he invited the participation, the invasion of a foreign power in our democracy. As president, he lied to investigators, obstructed justice, fired James Comey, head of the FBI, tried to fire Mueller, head of the investigation, then invited President Zelensky to involve himself in our politics, as well as China, in exchange for favorable trade terms in an upcoming trade deal.
Thank you,
if we do not
Congressman.
hold him to account, if there is not justice, not only have we failed this moment, our Constitution and our country, but we have failed everyone who has sacrificed and laid their lives down on the line. And we cannot do that.
Thank you, Congressman. The impeachment inquiry is centered on President Trump's attempts to get political dirt from Ukraine on Vice President Biden and his son Hunter. Mr. Vice President, President Trump has falsely accused your son of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you. Having said that, on Sunday, you announced that if you're president, no one in your family or associated with you will be involved in any foreign businesses. My question is, if it's not okay for a president's family to be involved in foreign businesses, why was it okay for your son when you were vice president? Vice President Biden?
Look, my son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I carried out the policy of the United States government in rooting out corruption in Ukraine. And that's what we should be focusing on. And what I wanted to make a point about, and my son's statement speaks for itself. He spoke about it today. My son's statement speaks for itself. What I think is important is we focus on why it's so important to remove this man from office. On the 17th, look, the fact that George Washington worried on the first time he spoke after being elected president that what we had to worry about is foreign interference in our elections. It was the greatest threat to America. This president on three occasions, has invited foreign governments and heads of government to get engaged in trying to alter our elections. The fact is that it is outrageous. Rudy Giuliani, the president, and his thugs have already proven that they, in fact, are flat lying. What we have to do now is focus on Donald Trump. He doesn't want me to be the candidate. He's going after me because he knows if I get the nomination, I will beat him like a drum.
Hold on, sorry, I just want to follow up. Mr. Vice President, as you said, your son Hunter today gave an interview, admitted that he made a mistake and showed poor judgment by serving on that board in Ukraine. Did you make a mistake by letting him? You were the point person on Ukraine at the time. If you can answer.
Look, my son's statement speaks for itself. I did my job. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. No one has indicated I have. We've always kept everything separate. Even when my son was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, we never discussed anything. So there'd be no potential conflict. My son made a judgment. I'm proud of the judgment he made. I'm proud of what he had to say. And let's focus on this. The fact of the matter is that this is about Trump's corruption. That's what we should be focusing on.
Senator Sanders, your response.
Let me make a point. I think that it is absolutely imperative to go forward with impeachment. I hope that he is impeached. But I think what would be a disaster if the American people believe that all we were doing is taking on Trump, and we're forgetting that 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. We're forgetting about the existential threat of climate change. We are forgetting about the fact that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So what we have got to do is end this corruption, set a precedent for future history that says presidents like this cannot behave this way. But we cannot and must not turn our backs on the pain of the working class of this country.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Mark?
We want to move now to the economy. Senator Warren,
So you joke a lot about math, but recent polls show that you are only one of two Democratic candidates who are actually getting 10% of Trump voters. That's very impressive. It's actually a really big statistic. What do you think you're gaining, and what message you're giving that so many Trump supporters are coming to you?
Well, if you look, Donald Trump called out a lot of the economic problems and struggles in these communities. If you go out to the industrial Midwest, a lot of them have never recovered from the loss of manufacturing jobs. And we need a real set of solutions for that set of problems. But I'm thrilled to have 10% or more of Donald Trump voters who are supporting my campaign, because that means when I am the Democratic nominee, we win the whole thing in 2020.
Okay. So Nancy Pelosi has started, the impeachment inquiry, and you didn't think it was a good idea. Why not? And Trump thinks that some people say that he's welcoming it. Do you think that's true, or is he just making that up, as usual?
I am on board with the decision to impeach Donald Trump.
Yes.
Because at some point, if you literally are calling foreign leaders and asking them for political help in return for releasing aid that Congress had already authorized, I mean, at some point you have to impeach and say, look, this is the right thing to do regardless of the political calculation. I do think the politics may or may not work out in the right way, but we're a country of laws. You have to enforce the laws.
Yeah, you think it could blow back on Democrats if it's not done?
Well, this is the trap. Anytime we're talking about Donald Trump is winning. And Democrats need an affirmative vision that people are just as excited about. Like, if the Democratic message is Donald Trump bad, impeach Donald Trump, then we're actually increasing the chances of him getting a second term.
All right, well, let's talk about one of your policies, because it's one of them that I love is very near and dear to your heart. Your 6-year-old son is on the autism spectrum. Talk to us about the impact he has had in your life and what this policy is.
Well, when my wife and I realized that he was autistic, it was actually a huge relief because we were first-time parents and we were struggling and we didn't know what was normal, what wasn't normal. I mean, we obviously are thrilled about our son and we're getting him the resources that are allowing him to thrive. But when I looked around the country, I mean, my wife and I are in a very fortunate position. There are 2 of us, and I thought about single moms whom I've met on the trail who have autistic children who grow to be autistic adults. And one message I have for the American people is that atypical is the new normal. I mean, we all have someone in our family or circle that is neurologically atypical, and we need to build schools and systems that accommodate them at every stage.
What do you mean you were relieved? I didn't get that. What were you relieved about?
Well, we were relieved because we were first-time parents, and when we were struggling with our son, or our son was struggling, we're like, are we terrible parents? Like, you know, what is
so
going on?
you were relieved to see there was an
how
actual
many people
diagnosis.
were in your same position?
Yeah.
I hear from so many people, and who knows, I have young, you never know what you're going to go through as a parent.
You
and
never
it's
know.
so real that you're talking about that on the campaign trail because it's relatable.
You also have over 150 proposals on very specific issues like paying college athletes, eliminating the penny. Eliminate the penny. It's annoying. And government rewards for coaching Little League or fixing a neighbor's appliance. Some of these are funny. Are these the most pressing issues, do you think?
Well, I was introducing myself to the American people. I still am.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to introduce yourself is by letting people know what your vision is and what you would do as president. So that involves solving problems big and small. I want to ban robocalls. Why are we letting... I mean, these are real problems. And so if we have solutions at the ready, we should be talking about them.
The penny, though. I
Leave my penny alone. It's like moving Pluto. Leave the penny alone. Shouldn't have moved Pluto.
I didn't know you were so attached to the penny.
I'm very attached to the penny because the penny was how I learned how to count.
Oh, yeah. I know. Well,
so I am attached
to it. But now that you know.
I'm still not good. So we have 45 seconds.
Oh.
So what we're going to say is, you know, congratulations on all your success, and we're going to continue to watch and, you know, hope that you are able to build the kind of momentum that you need to go into the next, what is it called? Phase.
Are you in the next Democratic
I'm in the next
debate?
I'm already in the next debate. I'm preparing some zingers. I'm
Oh,
not doing
no,
that. And then the next debate, too, it looks like we're going to qualify as well.
I'm glad. Thank you, Andy. We will be right back.